What's going on, Dan K Show fans? It is Power Rankings week, baby. The second Power Rankings of the year. There are going to be some huge surprises, some big-time arguments, and some angry folks on the social medias after this one's all said and done. Elite, Premier, Power Rankings. Who's the best of the best? Tune in right now to find out. And go subscribe at the bottom left of the screen. Hit that little bell. Ooh, it's time for Dan K's 3 creepy things. And thing number 1 is that I am a gosh darn genius. Alex Thomas on social media just wrote after this long weekend in the NCDC that the Boston Bandits look like one of the scariest teams in the league. Remember the beginning of the year, someone called him his championship favorite. Whoa, scary stuff. Thing number 2, we got a spooky set. And even with the skeletons and the yoga skeleton and the pumpkins, the scariest thing here still remains Gritty, the Grit Man. Thing number 3, it's Power Rankings week. It's time to get into it. And with that, I look to my left and I see a man who was in the war room with me. We were battling, we were fighting this. It's my left-hand man, it's my consigliere, it's mon Michel, it's mon frère, which is, of course, French for brother. It is a guy who enjoys a good bowl of glace, which is French for ice cream, and it is Lucas Jones.
Hey, Dan.
That was a weird one, right?
This is a little weird one. You know what else is weird?
What? Oh, I
should have coordinated that, probably.
Well, you know what? No, it's funny. Gino Binda all the time. We see Gino on the road a lot at the head of officiating, and he always makes fun of the way we dress, or at least the way I dress. He doesn't make fun of the way you dress. And we thought, you know what, we'd clean it up this week, and we dressed as Gino Binda for Halloween. Dan K and Lucas Jones, who got the cheaper referee costume because he didn't get the whistle with it. Of course, I found the thing that makes a lot of noise.
Well, that's more your style, and I guess you still find a way to make it Dan K, even if we're trying to un-Dan K it.
All right, let's make this thing official. Let's go. Let's do it. And you like how I said, let's make this thing official, because I'm an official. I'm going to referee this affair. I got all them going. Elite. Let's start with the Elite League right now. At number 10, just squeaking past the Jersey Hitmen, who we almost had in there. I know Lucas had in this 10 spot, but after a little bit of an argument, I was able to talk him down. Tampa Bay Juniors, the defending runners-up in the Elite at the 10 spot.
Yeah, you know, the Tampa Bay Juniors, I think one of the things that we really like about them is that they have some returners from last year's team, which, you know, almost went the distance as far as the Elite Division is concerned. They've had kind of an up and down season so far, but I think a lot of what that is, you know, the new guys meshing with some of the veterans and trying to find that space down there in a competitive Florida division. They have 2 wins against the Colonials. They have 1 win against the Mad Hatters. They split that series, and, you know, 2 tough losses, I think, to the Florida Eels, a phenomenal team in their own right. I think that earns the Tampa Bay Juniors a 10 spot, but I think both of us know, and the Tampa Bay Juniors will probably agree, that they can do better than number 10.
Yeah, and I think this is a team with the lineage within the organization to start piecing together those wins. I think it's been a slower start than they would have liked. I think there's a lot of tough teams in that Southeast that they're dealing with week in, week out. Right now, that goal differential of -8, got to pump that up. It's the offense, I think, that's not shown up, that's created the difficulties on the defensive side of the ice. This is a team, though, with the makings of a championship runner later on in the year. We'll see what the Juniors do. Let's move on to number 9. And stealing the 9 spot, it is the Boston Bandits. Not the month they wanted in the month of October, but 7-4-3 overall. That's good for 17 points and a +5 goal differential. This is a team with a lot of games under their belt this month.
Yeah, you know, the Boston Bandits are one of those perennial contenders throughout the entirety of the USPHL. You know, they've got that NCDC team up there as well as the Premier and Elite team. This Elite team has been good. I like them in the number 9 spot because they've played such a huge variety of teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they've played everybody. You know, they had 2 losses against the Hitmen, a tough team, but, you know, they really have started to pick it up in other areas of the game. I like they have a positive goal differential as well.
Yeah, I really do. And you look at this side, you look at the Bandits, they're playing in a tough division. I think they're another one of these teams that they tend to jump up and down in our elite. I know last year they did that in our power rankings, and this is a squad that watch out for the Bandits come November. This is a team that can start to get on a roll. Speaking of a team on a roll, let's go to the Atlanta Mad Hatters, who just had a huge weekend for themselves, Lucas, down there. They're at 6-6-1. That's good for 13 points. They got 42 goals for them this year.
Yeah, and this is a team that, we had some experience with in the beginning of the season as well. We've gotten to watch a lot of film on them as well. When they're in that Florida division, tough to see locally, so you have to go to Hockey TV to really find them. I like the way their team is extremely balanced. I like the way that everybody's involved. You got Tillman Washington right now as the top scorer, a rookie, and in fact, Dan, 4 of their 5 top points getters are all rookies this season. So I think this is a team that only has an upwards direction.
Yeah, and you look at it, I mean, it's easy to say they could have been higher after their recent performance against the Florida Eels. They sweep the Florida Eels, but I looked at that situation and I said, earlier this year they got swept by the Florida Eels. They got them back this month. A little back and forth between the two. We'll see how that shapes out as the year goes on. A little bit of a rivalry down there between those two in the Florida division. Moving on, number 7, a team that has dropped a bunch of spots here with us, but a team that still sits in a pretty powerful division, still has a tough strength of schedule, and still makes things happen. It's the Hampton Roads Whalers at 8-5-1. 58 goals for them this year. The offense has been there, the defense trying to pick it up.
Yeah, and that can be tough too. The offense can do a lot of things, Dan, but it's tough for those guys to crash the net and be effective and be aggressive while also having a hatchback on defense. They started off the month in a rough way. They dropped their first 4 games of the month. They've picked it up towards the end. They have 4 wins against the Patriots this month. You like to see them go up against teams like Richmond and Carolina and split some series and put some more goals in the back of the net. But I think they are a good team, and again, one of those teams that you really expect them to start climbing.
What you talk about when you talk about the Hampton Roads Whalers is that home barn, right? And they don't tend to lose at home. On the road is where they have to pick it up at this elite level to show me that they are in the top 5 upper echelon, a championship contender. Because guess what? Titles are not won in the elite and premier at home. They are won on the road in a different barn after a travel. So losing to Richmond on the road twice and losing to Carolina Junior Canes on the road twice, that puts you a little bit behind the 8 ball with me. They sit at the 7 spot. Let's go to 6. This is a team that's coming off of 2 losses to the Atlanta Mad Hatters, but I think just offensively, when you look at the leading scorers in this division, you see Andrew Van Udenhorn with a 4-0 record in net. Sorry, not a leading scorer, but a netminder there. And you see this team, they put up a lot of goals, Lucas. They have Adam Bertzlaff, Easton Moore, Zechariah Thomas, who might be the most skilled skater in this entire elite right now. They have a great squad.
Yeah, and one of the things, at least for me, the stats can sometimes be deceptive, right? And there's a few ways that can happen. But one of the ways that stats usually aren't deceptive is the amount of assists that people get. And when your top scorers are all talking double digits in terms of assists, that's a team that doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, right? When the whole team is involved in the offensive production, there's not one guy you can shut down because then the next guy just kind of steps right into their place.
Yeah, and this side is 12-2-2, and those 2 losses coming against the Atlanta Mad Hatters in their last 2 games. I mean, before that, they were 6-0 in the month of October, swept the Juniors, swept the Blades, swept the Colonials. They take care of business. 72 goals for. This is a squad that loves to score the puck, and I'll tell you, for officials like us, we're never calling many penalties on a team that scores that much. It's a quick game, it's a fun game, it's a fast game. Let's keep moving. Number 5. Now we're getting to that upper tier, that upper echelon. I was just at a wedding this past week, and that top tier of the cake, the one with the big people on top of it. Charlotte Rush, 11-2-1, 23 points. They have a plus 45 goal differential. They could have been higher. They could have really made that move up there. Split with the Junior Canes this weekend was great. A split with the Richmond Generals was great. But this is a team that's just that got swept by the Richmond Generals there. That was where they kind of fell back off a little bit for me, and they sit in this 5 spot. But roster-wise, when healthy, maybe the most talented roster in the league.
Yeah, they're really a terrifying team on the offensive side, and that's something that the elite premier teams have in common. They've got a lot of goal-scoring ability. They've got one guy in particular, and that's Lalonset. And he has been such a producer. 16 goals, 7 power play goals, Dan. I mean, this is a guy that if he skates out on that power play, you're in trouble. because you know that he's going to be getting the puck. You know that he can make things happen. I think Lalinsette being alone and the fact that he's a rookie lends so much in terms of where they sit in these power rankings.
The big name that I look at is Christian Roble. With how depth-oriented this Rush squad is, this Rush organization, the question is, will Roble be a fourth-line guy come the end of the year at the premier level? Or will he be a first-line guy for the elite team? And come national title time, that will be the telltale with the elite. I think with Christian Roble on this elite side top line, they are immediately the team to beat. With Christian Roble on the fourth line of the Premier, I think the Premier becomes the team to beat. This guy is a game changer at both levels. He becomes an insane depth scorer at the Premier level. He becomes a top-line, dominated game guy in the elite. And I'm interested to see kind of how they play with him.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where, and that's the danger, right? And if you're just talking about
That's
the elite
my middle
team,
name, The Danger.
if you're just talking about the elite team, you've got all these skilled skaters, but if there's a couple injuries on that Premier squad, those are the first guys to get called up.
Yep, and let's talk about calling up a squad right here at number 4, 8-1-1 on the year, 17 points, a plus 21 goal differential. This is the Springfield Picks, 7-1-1 in the month of October. Swept BJB. They beat the Rockets, beat the Hitmen, beat the Aviators. 2 wins against the Bandits. Got a win against the Cyclones, who we still haven't talked about yet, which means they could still be in this top 10 here. They have some big wins, and their only big key loss, Cyclones in OT. They took the Cyclones to OT. They almost beat the Cyclones twice, Lucas. This Springfield Picks team could easily be number 1.
Yeah, and they're another one of those teams that always seems to be in contention. I think the one thing that maybe they're working against with is not necessarily a lackluster offense, but an offense that maybe hasn't found its stride yet. Their defense is shut down. Make no mistake, they've given up 20 goals.
I mean, they're averaging 4 goals a game. Hold on. Off to the box. Off to the box. I'm not good with the whistle yet. I'm not perfect at the Gino Binda game. But they're averaging 4 goals a game.
Look,
you use the word lackluster. This all goes back to something we're going to talk about in the empty net with Eric Richardson, who may or may not be a prize winner.
All I'm saying is that early in the season, a 4 goals a game average, that's upside down. That's why it's not working. It's got to be the other way up. The only thing I'm saying is that they have a phenomenal defense, but you start to encounter those late season powerhouse teams, especially come end of the year playoff time.
Okay.
4 goals a game might not be enough, especially against some of the other teams we've been talking about, like the Rush, like the Generals, like the Hurricanes, who just play that swirling vulture-style offense.
Okay, I won't blow the whistle on it, but what I will do is move on to our number 3 squad. Let's take a look at the Northern Cyclones. And this is an interesting one because there's going to be some arguments about this. There's going to be the idea that the Picks beat them head-to-head in regulation, lost to them in OT. Does that lean in the direction of the Picks? That is the question everyone will have. What I look at is just what the Cyclones are doing on a day-in and day-out basis, and the fact that they have only 17 goals allowed, 53 goals for. They've beaten the Rockets 3 times, a tough team. They've beaten the Hitmen. They beat the Picks. They beat the Bandits. They beat the Aviators. Their key loss in October to the Picks. Honestly, I think this is 3A, 3B with the Picks and the Cyclones. But right now, for some reason, when I look at guys like Keenan Waters on this side, when I look at Mike Giordano or John DiFilippo, when I look at Hunter Meyer, a left defenseman with 13 points, I see a team that has title written all over it.
Yeah, I just see too many returners on this Northern Cyclones team to discount them, And when a team has that many returners, you sort of not give them the benefit of the doubt, but you do give them that little bit of a bump. You've got 7 guys with double-digit points, all the way down the list. They're full of names that right? It's Hunter Meyer, Mike Giordano, Keenan Waters. You keep going down the list. You've got Mark Giordano. You get 2 Giordanos on one team. That gives you a bump for sure. Yeah. But, we saw this team last year. We saw them a little bit this year, and I think 3A, 3B might be a good way to phrase it, kind of unofficially. Yeah. But officially, they just have too many returners right now.
And that's what a power rankings is about, right? It's not always the head-to-head. Sometimes it's just what's on that roster. What are the bare bones of what I'm looking at? And let's go to a team that's got some great bones. I'll tell you what, if the bones are good, then the house is strong right here. And the Carolina Junior Canes come in number 2, the Junior Hurricanes, 13-1-0. just got handed their first loss. They were completely undefeated before the rush got to them. 66 goals for, just 25 against in 14 games. This team does it on the offensive end. They do it on the defensive end. They can out-physical you when they want to. And they have 2 netminders that are both allowing less than 2.5 goals a game.
Yeah, you got to be happy with that. You have Shane Gooley and Jackson Hansen. 2 goaltenders right now that I think are really propelling this Carolina Junior Hurricanes team in a division that is so offensively competitive. You need that good goaltending. Hansen, of course, a rookie right now, 4-1, 2.36 goals against, but a .919 save percentage. We'll go ahead and give him the roundup up to .92 on that one.
I'd say you do that.
It's been pretty impressive work defensively for this team so far.
And with that, with us putting the Carolina Junior Canes at the 2 spot, you look at it, and again, I talked about, I tried to warn folks that there are going to be some angry people. There are going to be some tweets out there, ladies and gents, and there are going to be some people saying, you guys are wrong, you guys don't get this right. The Junior Canes, let's look at it. They're number 1 in the Southeast Division, which right now, toughest division in the Elite. There is going to be a matchup between the team we put ahead of them. The Canes went out there, they swept the Whalers in October. They swept Potomac. They split with Charlotte. What else could they do? Well, power rankings. What do I always say? Immediacy. What have you done for me lately? How about those Gens #roll? Gens, Rob Simmons, their leading point getter. This guy has immediately jumped in, immediately taking on that Matt Doherty role with Doherty heading up to the premier level. He's immediately fit right in with this squad. Dominated for the Richmond Generals. The netminding has been absolutely stellar from Nick Bernstein, 7-1-0 with a 1.20 goals against, over a 9.5 saves percentage. The Generals are at number 1. They've won 10 consecutive games. They're 12-2-0. This past month they swept Potomac. That's great. But guess what else they did? They swept the Whalers and the Rush. Lucas, I had you go through this and I said, what were the key losses? And you said...
Never lost.
Never lost, baby. Ain't never lost in the month of October. Your number 1 elite side, the Richmond Generals.
I mean, it doesn't get much easier than that. You talk about sometimes having a battle for these spots between the 2 of us, but you look at a team that's been 10-0 in their last 10 games, completely undefeated through the month of October, playing offense like they are, playing defense like they are. And again, you've got some returners as well on this team that are really propelling them and really taking on that leadership role. 5 guys with double digits, and in those top 5, 3 of them are rookies. You love the mix of the youth and the veteran returners, their leadership down in Richmond. Clearly the number 1 team in the Elite.
And before we move on, we go through our top goal scorer in the Elite. It's going to be Guillaume Lalancette of the Charlotte Rush. He's got 16 goals on the year. Your top assist getter in the Elite right now, Charlotte Rush's Ivan Korczak. And then also, Korczak's also the leading point getter with 25 points. So if you're the Charlotte Rush, you're looking at it and you're saying, offensively, I think we're pretty darn good. And that's without Christian Robel, who's lost a few games at the elite level because he's playing up with the premier side and dominating up there as well. Your top netminder, Nick Bernstein of the top Richmond Generals. Dylan Sheets behind him with a 1.33 goals against and a 5-1-0 record. Lucas, do you want to run through this top 10 one more time, or do you want me to do it?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Top 10. Number 1, the Richmond Generals. Number 2, the Carolina Junior Canes. Storm Surge, baby. Number 3, the Northern Cyclones. Number 4, Springfield Picks. Some are going to argue that one. Number 5, the Charlotte Rush. Number 6, the Florida Eels. Number 7, the Hampton Roads Whalers. Number 8, the Atlanta Mad Hatters. Number 9, the Boston Bandits. And number 10, rounding it out, the Tampa Bay Juniors. Producer Lena, take it away. It's premiere time. Coming up next.
You are watching The Dan K Show. Everything USPHL. From the NCDC to the Premier and Elite Leagues. The Dan K Show with Dan K and Lucas Jones.
All right, hockey fans, we're back. We're ready for the Premier Power Rankings. Before we get into it, Lucas, this was probably the toughest Power Rankings we've ever had. I think we were in agreement on a lot of it, but kind of talk through with the folks at home what made this so difficult.
Well, you're seeing sort of a lot of teams that, I don't know, are not usually part of the dynamic of the conversation.
Yeah.
And you're seeing some teams that are always in the conversation, but all of a sudden, Dan, much to our surprise, when you look at the numbers, they're just not there.
And that is breaking news. We have to break it now for the first time. And this is also, this is going to be big because this is Numbers-wise, athlete-wise, this is a top 10 team. Roster-wise, this is a top 10 team. Organization-wise, top 10 team. But after the month of October, for the first time in the history of the power rankings, the Hampton Roads Whalers are not in the top 10. Not in the top 10, didn't make it, and they are... Oh, we get... What? Producer Lena...
Throw a challenge flag at us?
Producer Lena throwing the challenge flag, apparently upset with the choice. I think she was won over by Chef Troy and the food at the Hampton Roads Whalers showcase that we went to. Lucas, tell Producer Lena why. Tell Producer Lena why no Hampton Roads Whalers in the top 10, and we'll throw it back off camera.
Well, they've had some issues with injuries, and that's not normally something. It's something you can't necessarily hold against a team. But at the same time, you got to talk about the facts, right? The facts are
power rankings.
They've lost some guys to injuries in the month of October. They've had some tough losses in the month of October. They're a team that has, to an extent, also slipped down those standings a bit in the month of October. They're 5-5 in their last 10.
Yep.
Their goal differential still strong. But again, the power rankings are what have you done for me lately? And lately, Hampton Roads has struggled, as well as other teams sort of ascending and doing really well.
Lucas, the other two teams to be left out. There's multiple teams to be left out. Let's talk about teams left out right now. How about the Chicago Cougars at 11-2-0, not making the top 10? How about the Springfield Picks at 10-2-0? I had them at number 11, not making the top 10. And there's one more team we're not going to mention just yet because of how close that Midwest West division is. So let's get into it. Let's watch. Let's see what we get. Number 10, Lucas. This was one that we kind of battled over a little bit. We kind of went through it. We dug in. We dealt through the details. But I just feel like this team of late in recent showing has deserved and earned a spot in the top 10. It is the Richmond Generals.
And this is another one of those things where, you say to yourself, but the Richmond Generals are back of the Hampton Roads Whalers in the standings, right? And so if you look at that, you say, well, what are you guys doing over there? But then again, you got to reinforce it's the what have you done for me lately? And the Richmond Generals are 6-4 in their last 10.
Yep.
They're coming off some good wins. They beat the Florida Eels. They've beaten the Atlanta Mad Hatters. A very close game against the Metro Jets. They struggled against the Junior Canes, but honestly, who hasn't in that
But you look at the month of October here, Lucas, and you see that in October this Richmond Generals team is 4-2. Their only two losses have had retribution, right? They've gotten the Avenger win from both of their losses. One was to the Hampton Roads Whalers. They lost 8-1 to them, won 8-1 against them. How does that happen, first of all?
Explain that.
And in the Rush, they win 5-4, they lose 7-5, so they split with two teams that are always difficult to beat.
Yeah, and it's one of those teams that you see the clear improvement, right?
Yep.
When you look at September they had versus the October that they had, you see the improvement, you see these guys getting better, and you know that Richmond is that team that they start off a little sluggish, but by the end they're rolling like a snowball down a mountain. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I always roll like a snowball down the mountain because I have bad footing. I have trouble walking down steep inclines. But a team that doesn't have trouble at any point is in the number 9 spot, Lucas, and that is the Florida Eels. The Florida Eels come in at number 9, 12-3, 1-0, 25 points. And this is probably the most interesting team in the sense of a team that dropped in the power rankings. And they didn't really drop in the power rankings due to performance, Lucas. This is a team that's 6-2 in the month of October, swept TBJ, swept the Blades, beat Atlanta in a shootout. So I said to Lucas, it doesn't count. That's what I put. So Eric Richardson will get a kick out of that joke. But this is a team that I look at them, they dropped to number 9, and one of the big key losses that they're dealing with right now is a great moment that also is going to make their roster a little tougher to deal with. Moving up to the NCDC, congratulations to Nikita Pinamesov.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw him on the roster for the Islanders Hockey Club.
Saw him live, man.
And saw him live on that game. We're like, okay, look at this guy making the big move from Florida up to IHC. Had himself a great game.
Notched the goal.
Really clearly deserves to be up there. But then you have to have that unfortunate conversation. You no longer have as the Florida Eels Nikita Pinamesov. Now, now your team has to struggle to find a replacement, slot up some guys. And again, they have the record.
Yeah.
But they lost Pinamesov, and I think I'm really interested to see what will happen come November, because they'll be attending an event which will see them mix and match against a few teams outside their division.
And that's going to be big. It's going to be seeing how they come to terms And what you're going to see, like Demid Podrazov, he's going to have to step up and take on a bigger role as a team guy. Jake Court's going to have to step up, take on a bigger role. Maxim Tereshchenko has to step up, take on a bigger role. There are a lot of hands that need to step up now and play a bigger role. TJ Zebley, a guy with 10 assists on the year, has to come up huge now. He slots up immediately. There's a lot of guys that are going to have to step in and fill some big shoes because Nikita Pinamesov is an NCDC star already. And this is a team that's without that star, but a team that has plenty of stars at number 8, sitting at 9-5-0-0 on the year, 18 points, and the only team in the top 10 in the Premier with a negative goal differential. This was something I held against them, but Lucas still liked this squad, wanted them in this top 10, argued me into it. He had some good arguments on them, some good points. It's the Carolina Junior Canes, who are 4-2 in the month of October.
Yeah, and a lot of times this is one of those situations, I think, where the stats don't tell the right story, right? You can look at goal differential all you want, but goal differential only tells you an average, right? And it's one of the things that I try to tell my students when I tutor them. I said, look, a total number only tells you an average. It doesn't tell you the individual story. And I think part of what that goal differential is a couple of really bad losses up against a lot of very close games. And I think that earns them a little bit of a bigger nod.
I don't like it. Slashing call against Lucas for slashing against my Moose. Because the Moose, I felt like the Moose could have gone here. I felt like Hampton Roads may have been able to go here, but then you see the Canes beat them head to head. There were so many spots. The picks have been my guys all year in this Premier level. But then I look at this Junior Canes team, and that was my original feeling, was it was a slashing call against Lucas. I felt like it was wrong. But then I look, and like Lucas said, there's so much talent. There's so much physicality. This team's able to do it in all different ways. And when they went to a showcase, which we put a lot of weight on these showcases, because you're playing a lot of hockey in a few amount of days, and that is what it looks like. That a showcase is the environment you're playing in for the championship. Mm-hmm. So if you don't play well in showcases, you don't play well in the nationals,
right,
and you don't win a national championship. So anybody who goes, well, a showcase is tough. We had to play 2 games in 24 hours. Well, guess what? Go win the games. You got to win the games on your schedule, or you got to get points out of the games on your schedule, because come natty time, you're going to be playing a lot of hockey. Obviously, it's extended. Obviously, it's over a few more days than the showcase, but there's a lot of hockey, short amount of time, and this Junior Canes team showed they can absolutely step up in this scenario.
Yeah, they're a resilient team. They're a physical team. They've got the conditioning. They do well in showcases. And like you said, Dan, you got to play a whole bunch of games in a short period of time. So I think they're a team that's already pre-built for nationals.
Hey, raise your hand if you're really good at setting up your co-host for transitions. Oh, sorry, Lundquist. I'll raise my hand right here. And you know what? It's because speaking of good at showcases, how about the Hudson Havoc at number 7, who jump into the top 10 for the first time since last spring? This team goes 4-0 at the Minnesota Showcase, an event we wanted to get to, were unable to, unfortunately. They are 9-3-1-0 this year, and this team with 19 points, 67 goals for, and 33 goals against.
Yeah, the Hudson Havoc are a team. You talk about showcase environments and being in a tough environment. To go undefeated in a showcase is really more incredible than it sounds, because you're stuck with, sometimes we've seen teams get stuck with a 9 p.m. game and then an 8 a.m. game back to back, especially after having to drive out, having an hours long drive and then having to get there and immediately play a game. This team is absolutely full of great scorers. They've got, looks like 8 guys in double digits. They've got guys with assists. They've got guys who are active on the power play. Chris Duzak, Evan Mitchell, their 2 top points getters, also extremely active on the power play. I think this is a team that you talk about having all the pieces, but then putting them together. The Hudson Havoc have put them together and gone 4-0 at that Minnesota Showcase.
Key wins in the month: 2 against the Mullets, 7-3 victory over the Blue Hawks. Beat the Minnesota Moose 3-1, who were in the top 5 last go-around with this. And you look at their only 2 losses in the month of October, both to the Wisconsin Rapids River Kings, who we haven't heard their names said yet. So let's stick around for the River Kings and see where they slot up, because apparently those 2 losses in our power rankings didn't factor in as heavily as some other losses some other teams had, because of just how good those River Kings may be, according to us. Stick around, River Kings fans. That's a little bit of foreshadowing. Number 6. This is a squad that still, over and over, I look at the paper. I look at the fact that they're the only team to have scored 100 goals already. It's a team that traveled across the world to go play in China and represent the USA. This is a team that, on paper, I thought should be 15-0. They are 12-3. They've played the toughest schedule of anybody in the USPHL thus far, and it is the Metro Jets at number 6 with 24 points.
Yeah, the Metro Jets had a good month then. They only had one loss to the Lansing Wolves. You know, the rest of the time they're just putting up goals. You talk about 100 goals at this point in the season. It's a bit much. It's a bit excessive, I think. I think you could maybe tone it down a little from a defensive heavy guy. From him, not so much. But the Metro Jets, I mean, they're always in the conversation. They're always in the conversation.
And you look at this team, and the reason why they sit at number 6, that Lansing Wolves loss, number 1, you know, if you're the Metro Jets, you're trying to get a sweep out of that weekend, you don't get it. So you split with the Wolves. That's not the worst thing in the world. You're going to lose hockey games throughout a long season. It's a long season. But the big loss is Tyler German, who leaves them, moves up for the Metro Jets, and now this side is sitting there, and you know you're trying to fill that spot. That's a guy who had 13 points before he left.
Yeah, you know that's definitely a difficult thing for you to try to replace. And you know, with the exclusion of Tyler German, you have 9 guys who are averaging over a point per game. Anthony Sonato averaging nearly 2 points per game. Some shorthanded goals, shorthanded opportunities. I mean, it's a talented squad for sure. The loss to Lansing, like you said, has to be a part of the conversation in terms of the power rankings. But a solid team with a good strength of schedule, clearly still competitive after last season, coming to a national championship is about as close as you can get.
And this team, as long as they have Anthony Sonato, will always be a top 10 squad because Anthony Sonato has taken on the role of the new Osmondson, the new Monkovich, right? This is a young man who has D1 pedigree, D1 ability. Then you look between the pipes and you see Will Augustine. Lucas, walk him through those stats.
Yeah, Will Augustine right now, 1.16 goals against average, a .929 save percentage. Give him the old goalie bump up to .93. You love to give the guys the old rounding error when you can. But, you know, you talk about having to go the distance, you need 2 goaltenders, right? And Marcus Turner is another great asset of this team. He's 6-2. He's got a 2 even goals against average, lower save percentage of .894. But this Metro Jets team, we saw them with Marcus Turner in net a few times.
Yep.
And Marcus Turner and this team, they gel really well. He's a great kind of foil for that offense to keep moving. I like the way this goaltending shakes out. They play defense 200 feet from their own net with all that offense they generate.
Yep.
But I think this is a team that's going to be in the conversation for a while.
Let's move to number 5, and the big exciting part about this team is that is the first time in their history, in our history, that they've cracked the top 10 of the Dan K Show's power rankings. And this team is at it with a vengeance, man. They are 12-0-1-2, and they have 0 regulation losses. 0 regulation losses. One of only 2 teams with 0 regulation losses. The other team is completely undefeated. They are good. They are grand. They are great. They have 79 goals for, 28 against, and they have the Pittsburgh Vengeance.
I like the Pittsburgh Vengeance.
You love them. They're your team. They're your boys.
Last year I said, what a great name. You know, you got to immediately love this team. Lucas Kirk with 23 points. Joe Shanley with 22 points. Nicholas Coppola, the rookie, coming in on the right wing with 19 points. You've got guys that are averaging a ton of stats. Nicholas Coppola, by the way, 8 power play assists, which is a stat that I always love to highlight. And then you go over to the goaltenders and what's really been sort of the anchor for this team. 2 rookie goaltenders, Dan. Kai Tomita and Joshua Ferry. 2 guys that are solid in net. 2 guys that are under 2.5 goals against. I love the way this team is playing hockey right now.
And you look and you say, Dan, I mean, the goal differential's there. The standings are there. This team hasn't lost the regulation yet. How could they only be number 5? How do we not move them up higher? One thing that kind of pushed them back for me a little bit, they've yet to play a top 10 team in our power rankings. And that weighs in with when we look at your wins, what are your key wins, what are your key losses? And right now they just don't have all the wins there. They have a good win against the Cougars, 3-2. They got 2 good wins against the Cherokee. I like those wins a lot. They were 10-0 in the month of October. So this is a team that is hot as a fox in a forest fire. Can't wait to see what they do against Metro. That is going to play a huge role in the Vengeance future.
Yeah, and I think they're in a similar situation to the Eels. You know, you've got a couple interesting events coming up in November, December. You'd like to see them play some of these other teams. I think we're going to get a chance to. What's really going to be interesting is how both the Eels and the Vengeance end up shaking out in these November power rankings.
Let's go to number 4, and number 4 is a team that is 8-3-0. They have doubled their goals for to goals against. That is plus 22 goal differential, 44 goals for, 22 goals against. This is a team that's key wins include the Rockets, an incredible Aviators team that they shut out. That was the big moment because the Aviators are most likely the most potent offense other than the Metro Jets. Probably the second most potent offense at this level, and they shut them out. That does not happen every day. They've beaten the Cyclones, they've beaten the Picks. Only loss in October to an undefeated Islanders Hockey Club side. So at number 4, it is the Boston Bandits, 8-3-0.
Yeah, I mean, they're only lost to an undefeated team. I don't know how much you could really count that. That would have been a huge get for them. But I think the Boston Bandits are a squad that we've definitely watched since their inclusion in the USPHL. I kind of took a liking to them when they first joined. And, I mean, they've got talent from the elite, all the way up to the NCDC. They're perennial contenders. They give teams fits, Dan. They really, really do. Between the amount of offense that they're able to put together, led by a couple of really good rookies, Brian Schindler, Henry Anders, Nick Angelis, all 3 rookies, all 3 guys who are up there in the point standings. And their goaltending's been good too. You talk about the goal differential. This is something that's really important. Aaron Mercer, .945 save percentage.
Yep.
And it's just incredible to watch.
Number 3 and number 2. We had these flip-flopped. You had it one way, I had it the other. I won this argument. This was an argument that Dan K won. So if you have an argument and you're in the number 3 spot, you bring it up with Dan K because I'm the one who put him there. And this is a situation where we have been the absolute kiss of death for whoever we have said is the best team in the Midwest West. So I apologize now for whatever happens next because it's probably our fault. Because guess what? We put the Minnesota Moose in this spot last month, and they are not in our top 10. Not in the premier top 10. They drop out of the top 10, probably in that 11 or 12 spot area. The Wisconsin Rapids River Kings, 11-3-0-0, 22 points, 63 goals for, just 29 goals against. This is a team that in the month of October went 8-2, 10 games played in October, a tiring month of October. 2 against the Ducks, quack, quack. 2 against the Havoc, oh my God. 1 against the Moose, antlers up. 1 against the Mullets, look at the hair. And 1 against the Mallards, another quack, quack. If you were a duck, if you were of the Avarian variety, you were in trouble if the River Kings came to town. Key losses, though, they did lose to the Steele County Blades. They did lose to the Blue Ox 2-1 because it's the Midwest West and every single team beats each other.
And especially the Blue Ox. The Blue Ox specifically have played spoiler to us a few times before. But this River Kings team, I mean, they've just been so impressive. How do you not look at this River Kings team and just be excited to see what they're bringing to the table? You've got some big-time scorers on this team, and a lot of times you say, oh, the Midwest, they're defensive, right? They don't play a ton of offense. Wrong. You've got some of the most potent offense in the league on this River Kings team. Yeah,
and you look at Harold Juergens, and that's a guy who reminds me so much. I always use the comparison when I see a guy who can score the puck like Harold Juergens can. He is a Joe Duzak guy. It's a USPHL lineage dude playing professional hockey right now. And you look at Harold Juergens, and he's got that type of future written all over him. He's 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points for this team. He runs the point. You can get the puck to him. You run your power play through. You do anything you need with this young man on the ice. And then he's got Jordan Steer alongside him with 4 goals, 14 assists. This team scores from all over. They make it work. And when I look at who I'm going to make as my top Midwest West team, which right now I think it's the River Kings, I look behind the bench, and you always feel comfortable with a guy like Marty Quarters.
Yeah, he is definitely one of those coaches that looks at what he's got and just innately knows how to make the most out of those weapons that he has. And he's a coach who's highly adaptable. You talk to the players and parents, and they only have good things to say about him. It's the curse of the Midwest West.
Yep.
But we'll see. If they can keep it up, there's no reason why they can't stay in the top 10, if not stay in the top 5 with how well they're playing.
Number 2. Number 2 is an interesting one. And number 2 is the reason why the Richmond Generals got the 10 spot. Because of how high up we put number 2. When we saw a win that the Generals had against this side in the month of October, and we saw the month of October this side had, sweeping the Colonials, beating the Generals 7-5 and then losing to them, and sweeping the Carolina Junior Canes, we looked at the roster, we looked at the setup, we looked at the fact that there are some guys that need to get healthy and will get healthy, and we said we could not see another world than the Rush being number 2.
Yeah, the Rush are, again, it's one of those teams that they have it firing on all cylinders all the time. they never stop, right? If
Yep.
one line looks tired, the next line feels even more rested, and then they hop out there and they start skating all around you. They've got potent scorers. They're a team that likes to pass the puck. And one of the things that you sometimes notice when a team likes to pass the puck a lot, sometimes players who get left out on the 2-on-1s or the 1-on-1s aren't able to produce. Not the Rush.
Yep.
They're a team of individual skaters that can do it by themselves. They can go and they can pass the puck and create offense as a team.
Yep.
And if you let them get behind your defenseman and see numbers, it's already in the back of the net.
Yeah, and this is a Charlotte Rush team that they get the net minding, they do it all. They've doubled their goals for double what they have against. It's 66-33. I think the defense can do a little bit more for this side as the year goes on, as they get healthier. They physical you up. They travel well because of that physical nature. They've got a power play unit that is like, with the red jerseys, reminds me of the old USSR teams from back in the day, with Panishkin, Semyakin, Mikhailov. This is a squad that just knows how to score the puck. They know how to put it in the back of the net. Watch out for the Charlotte Rush, but a team that everyone's had to watch out for sits at number 1. This team is not lost yet. This team is 8-0-0-0. This is a team that, Lucas, I was at the Twin City Thunder. I went up to Maine. And I took in a game with this side. This is an undefeated side here with 16 points. I looked at this side, and I said, this is a really good team. I watched them in person, and what I see in person plays a huge role into my picks. What I see on hockey TV plays a huge role into my picks. The Islanders Hockey Club dominated. And not only did they dominate, but as they were leaving the ice at the end of that game, they looked at me, a few of the guys joking around with me, and said, who's number 1 now? And I love that confidence. If you want to talk about a guy who just is into confidence, man, I was always taught as an athlete that confidence, cockiness breeds success. Mm-hmm. I was always taught that. And it's not cockiness in a bad way. It's not confidence in a bad way. It's knowing that you can get the job done. Because if I don't know I can get the job done, how is my teammate supposed to rely on me? If I don't think I can get the goal, how is my teammate supposed to rely that I'm supposed to have the puck on my stick in a big moment? And this team absolutely radiates confidence right now.
And it's another thing where the stats sometimes, you look at the goals for, and you say, well, that's not that much, right? It's not a high number that you'd expect from a top team. But if you look at the schedule and you look at the scores of the games, there hasn't been a blowout, right? Yep. There hasn't been the blowout, and more importantly, there hasn't been the collapse. There hasn't been the game where they've given up, 7 goals, 8 goals. The most goals that they've given up in a game is 4 goals to the South Shore Kings, the very first game of the season. After that, you see a lot of 1s, you see a lot of 0s, you see a lot of 2s. That shows you a consistent defense that can manage a game. Because you can't always rely on your offense to put up big numbers.
I got to talk about Ryan Barrett, number 23 right winger. Because last year, my guy, can you remember who my guy was from the Northern Cyclones Elite? It was Matty Irwin. Mm-hmm. Matty Irwin. And I said that was the dude. That was my dude, man. Guess who's a bud of Matt Irwin, who's now playing a little D3 hockey right now, making the roster. Congratulations, Matty Irwin. Ryan Barrett. And Ryan Barrett is a right winger with 6 goals, 2 assists, year 2001, who's just got such a humongous future. Such a big-time talent. This is a guy that when I saw Matt Irwin with the Northern Cyclones Elite, I said this is a team that can win a title, and they almost did on his back. He almost carried them to a title. I look at Ryan Barrett, and I see that same bit of that edge that says, I refuse to lose today.
Yeah, and that's what you need, because you're going to get to Nationals at some point. You're going to get towards the end of the season, and it's going to be a situation where you're down by 1 with 2 minutes left.
Yep.
You need that guy who comes in, coach calls a timeout, you need that guy that comes in and goes, we are absolutely not losing. That is not an option. So figure it out and let's go. Let's make this thing happen. And I feel like IHC and Ryan Barrett has that, but then has a couple of other guys who can just as easily stand into that role. Guys who are leaders on the power play, leaders on even strength.
Yep.
And it's one of those teams that, again, because they don't have the high goals for, you think, oh, they're not that great. But, man, are they a tough team to play.
I talked to Coach Kirkostas about it, and he just looked at me, and first of all, Coach Tim Kirkostas, folks, if you're looking for a coach to play for who just cares, this is a guy who is, this is a family-type guy. forget about me, I love you, right? That was my whole saying back in the day, the family saying. And, you know, he talked to me about this team. He just goes, they're great, aren't they? And he goes, he said there's times where he'll show up late to practice because he's got a bunch of stuff going on. He's working. He works with the NCDC side too. And he comes out, and these guys have already been practicing for an hour on their own. These guys take control. These guys put in the work. These guys are 24/7 locked in. And he said, honestly, they just refuse to lose right now. And he said they might not be the best team, but they're going to be the hardest working each and every time out. And that's why they sit at number 1.
Yeah, and now the onus is on the rest of the league. Someone's going to try to beat them, and we'll see if anyone is going to be able to do it in November.
Who will beat them? We will see. The Dan K Show's put the target on their back, and they'll be hosting a showcase in November. So the month of November, IHC will either play the spoiler role and continue to stay undefeated, or someone else may take that top spot, start climbing up that mountain. Again, Premier Power Rankings, Islanders Hockey Club number 1, the Charlotte Rush number 2. Wisconsin Rapids River Kings number 3. We apologize now for the Midwest West Dan K Show curse. Number 4, the Boston Bandits. Number 5, the Pittsburgh Vengeance for the first time. Congratulations for the first time in team history. Number 6, the Metro Jets. Number 7, the Hudson Havoc. Number 8, the Carolina Junior Canes. Number 9, the Florida Eels. And rounding it out, number 10, the Richmond Generals. I had the picks: Hampton Roads Whalers, Minnesota Moose, Chicago Cougars, New Jersey Rockets, and Utica Comets just outside in that 11 through 16 range. There's 51 teams in this Premier right now, and anybody could win this thing. Let's see if you can do it. If you don't like the picks, reach out to us at @the_Dan Show, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you love them, reach out to us as well. And if you want to prove us wrong, let's do it on the ice, boys. Welcome to the Empty Net. Welcome to the Empty Net, our favorite portion of the show every week, where we get to talk to you, the fan. And we had a awesome competition for a big time prize, and we've got our prize winner. We asked you to say what you love about the Dan K Show, and one stood out because it chirped Lucas. And if you ever want to get to the bottom of Dan's heart, you can chirp Lucas on social media at @the_Dan K Show, and hashtag chirp Lucas. If you do decide to chirp Lucas this week, hashtag chirp Lucas. But it's Eric Richardson of the Springfield Picks, the voice of the Springfield Picks, who actually reached out and said, I love the Dan K Show because I'm the Springfield Picks broadcaster, and I told the boys, Lucas said that basically a shootout win doesn't really count. They then went on to sweep the Philadelphia Hockey Club that weekend. So Lucas, you grabbed them an extra 2 wins, and Dan grabbed them a cool cup to send their way. He has nothing to say about it. Doesn't even want to talk about it. Congratulations, Eric, for chirping Lucas Jones successfully and getting a prize out of it. That's a very good work on the chirp. Not every time, not very often do you chirp and get rewarded. You get rewarded this time. The other mention on Twitter, Lucas, that we had, it actually came from Instagram.
Yes, it did. And we were a little surprised to get this, too, because A, we didn't know this person was doing broadcasting, and B, we didn't know that he'd be so good at it. So let's roll the clip from a broadcast done by Connor McAnanama.
Out. Now IHC's D-man coming past the red line to get it deep. And he puts him into the bench! Oh my goodness! What a nice hit. Number 96, see you later, bud.
And that's a man right there, Lucas, who's got more animas than a bananama, as you said. That's Connor McAnanama, the Condor, who stops every puck moving. And this is a guy who might just be taking my job right now.
Yeah, I love the see you later, bud.
See you later, bud.
That is, you've already got your quintessential thing, a thing you're going to be known for in the industry. But please, when you get famous, throw in a good word for the two of us.
Seriously, try. Let's go. Let's all move up the ladder together. But no, seriously, it was hilarious. The see you later, bud. See you later, bud. Okay, I'm going to be using that till the end of time now on broadcast. It's like Doc Emmerich, how he invented waffle boarded away. Yeah, Connor McAnanama invents see you later, bud. That's a great one, man. And Lucas, I don't think we got anything else to talk about. We did the power rankings. People are probably on social media already complaining. Watch this thing on YouTube.com. You subscribed at the bottom left of the screen. You went to www.dankshow.com and got your Dan K Show swag. And now, Lucas, what else they got to do? Give us your parting words. Lucas takes another sip of coffee because we got a long night ahead of us of getting ready to edit the power rankings, which by we, I mean Lucas, and by me, I mean good night. I hope you had a good one. When Dan K's on the mic, it's always hockey night.
I love that. I love more animas than a bananama.
More animas than a banana is good. I like the Cam Kokonos call.
Oh, yes.
Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama, to Key Largo, Montego, baby why don't you pass to Camp Kokonos? He'll get there fast and then he'll score it slow. That's where we wanna go. Go! Camp Kokonos. That's a legit goal call from me.
That takes way too long.
And it also hurt my throat.
Bye.